Welcome to the No Sugarcoating Podcast. I am Amber Romaniuk, emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert. I am also the founder of amberapproved.ca. I support professional women achieve optimal health through mindful eating, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. This podcast provides the honest truth on what you really need to create body freedom. The No Sugarcoating Podcast provides information on healthy living, lifestyle changes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. Always seek the advice of your healthcare practitioner regarding your health and nutrition program. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 199 of the No Sugarcoating Podcast. Wow, I cannot believe it's already going to be episode 200 next week. So this week I'm talking all about vulnerability. So vulnerability in your health, ways vulnerability supports your health journey, and breaking free of fears of being vulnerable. So I'm really excited to share this episode today. I hope that, in me sharing more about vulnerability, that it's going to help you to have a deeper understanding of what it is and why it's so valuable and why it's so actually important to open up to being vulnerable in your life, in your health journey, because it absolutely changes everything in a positive way. And you're definitely going to want to make sure that you stay tuned to the show notes at the end of today's episode, as I have some really exciting announcements to share, as well as more information on the group program and something fun that I'm doing for episode 200. So definitely make sure that you listen all the way to the end. So if you are finding a specific eating style isn't working for you, you're struggling with emotional eating, food addiction, digestive issues, inflammation, you suspect your hormones are out of balance, self-care continues to be a problem, and you're at the bottom of your priority list, you're overwhelmed, you're battling with your weight and your body, well, you're in the right place, because these are all of the topics that I'm going to continue to talk about, diving into the habits and mindsets to set you on a different path. Amber Approved offers private coaching for hormonal imbalances, weight loss and digestive issues, emotional eating, and more. Contact Amber at amberapproved.ca to book your 30-minute complimentary consultation today. So let's talk about vulnerability and your health. Even as I say and feel what vulnerability feels like for me, it just makes me emotional in a good way, because vulnerability is so powerful. Like for me, I kind of wrote what I felt vulnerability is that I'm going to share with you. And then I'm going to share what a couple of other very world-renowned women have shared as far as their opinion of vulnerability. So for me, vulnerability is truly expressing the truth and essence of who you are. And it's being open, and it's willing to be emotional in any moment, so that you can fully honor yourself. And that honoring yourself has such a positive impact on others around you. And it can be inspiring and moving and courageous, and it can help you build your confidence. So vulnerability can be very emotional. It can be very uncomfortable, but it's this emotional discomfort that, again, can transform our lives and help us heal and move through different things with our health and our relationship with ourselves and confidence and love and all sorts of very powerful things. And I watched a video, and Brene Brown, who is like the vulnerability guru and a huge advocate for vulnerability, she asked Oprah what she thought vulnerability was. And I want to share it with you because I just think it was absolutely beautiful. So Oprah says to her that vulnerability is being willing to express the truth no matter what, the truth of who you are, the essence at your core for what you are really feeling at any given time. It is being willing to open up your soul and let it flow so that other people can see their soul in yours. Wow, that makes me emotional, because I just think that through personal experiences of being vulnerable, creating a space for other people to be vulnerable, especially those closest to me, especially my boyfriend, it's just been so beautiful to see myself be more vulnerable and then to see him open up and be more vulnerable, and the growth and the deepening that's happened in our relationship and the way that we can support each other emotionally is like profound because of being willing and courageous and open to be vulnerable. And so Brene Brown, this was a brief description that I found that she had said, but she said, vulnerability is basically uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And I really also, that resonates too, because I feel like, when you're putting yourself out there and you're being vulnerable, there is risk, there's uncertainty, because you may not know how the other people or person or whatever you're sharing is going to be taken. And you are exposing yourself emotionally, and that can be really scary. But that being said, I think that vulnerability is so feared, to be so open and have an experience, for fear of then, saying something and then being shut down or rejected or abandoned, or have people respond to you in a different way than you expect. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. But I want to talk about how vulnerability pertains to your health journey and body image, because I think that it plays a huge, huge role in someone's journey to optimal health, body freedom, a healthy relationship with food, building self-love. And so I really want to delve into this today, and I hope that you get a better understanding of it. And I hope that it inspires you to get out and be a little bit more vulnerable with yourself and with your path and the people that you love and those around you. So every week when I show up to record this podcast, I'm open, I'm vulnerable, I'm exposed, I'm sharing with you guys my deepest feelings and emotions and things I used to be afraid to share, things I used to be ashamed of, or things I used to harshly judge myself about. So it's just something that it takes time to build up the courage to do. And now that I look back, being vulnerable has been such a valuable part of my journey, both personally for myself, but also in my business. Opening up and being vulnerable has changed my life, because I've shared my message with thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people, and you're all hearing my messages. My clients may not be my wonderful clients and be on their own healing journeys if they would not have heard my messages of vulnerability. Just like if you watch a TED Talk, or you watch something on TV, or you read a book, or you see a quote on Instagram, there may be something that you saw that has moved you and inspired you. And it's that person who created that or shared that was vulnerable in doing so. I probably wouldn't have my business and the opportunities or the close relationship I have with myself, like I mentioned with my boyfriend or with those I love most, if I wasn't vulnerable. And, when you're in alignment with the right people, you feel safe and comfortable opening up and being vulnerable, and it will probably bring you closer to those people. And if they aren't in the right alignment, your vulnerability may show you, that maybe there's other people you want to surround yourself with that are going to be more supportive of your, vulnerabilities and your fears and you expressing yourself and what you need to bring to the table. And sometimes being vulnerable can trigger fears and insecurities in someone else. And so there is an opportunity again to see a lot of growth here emotionally in all areas of life. So I listened to a podcast about a month and a half ago from one of my favorite public figures / celebrities. And she opened up about having a miscarriage. And it was so vulnerable for her to open up and share this, because there's millions of people listening to her, watching her. And in the podcast, she talked about I often, kind of felt like a monster, thinking the things I was about having this miscarriage and that it wasn't meant to be. And just the way she shared it though, you could tell she was really putting herself out there. And the response though of her being vulnerable and creating the space of sharing something so intimate and deep and personal is that tens of thousands of people are messaging her or, posting on the posts about their own experiences and thanking her for being so open and vulnerable. And, it even inspired me to reach out to this person and say, hey, thank you for creating such a safe space to be vulnerable. And so it's just so beautiful when anyone opens up and impacts one person or millions of people. And when we share, we get to affirm that it is okay if, you are struggling with something like emotional eating or weight issues or health symptoms or not feeling worthy. There are ways to gain freedom, and you don't have to feel shame or embarrassed or like you have to hide, because you never know how sharing something with someone else could help transform or inspire that other person, right? So it's like, if I would have never have shared any of my story and I wouldn't be sharing this podcast, like who would I have missed inspiring or supporting or letting know that you're not alone? And I feel almost like it's a very important part of my job to be vulnerable and open, because I do want to try and change and inspire as many people in this world as I can to have food freedom and a healthy relationship with their bodies and self-love. So I think it's just so important to be vulnerable. And so of course, like this is a very emotional part of the health journey, I feel like, but where vulnerability really supports your health and, physical and emotional ways is sometimes we need to fully open up to let go of past hurts, negative or limiting belief systems, create new supportive patterns, mindsets, and habits that are truly part of your greatest good. And sometimes vulnerability is being like fully emotional and just crying or getting angry, to work through and let go of your emotions. Like I've cried so many times when I've done self-care and I've been journaling or meditating or tapping or working through past, hurts or negative emotions, even if I've gotten body talk or energy work or like been on a client call with my business coach. Like I've shared so many things with these people who have also supported me on my, journey, and getting vulnerable has helped me to work through those things. I've shared so many things with my boyfriend who is so supportive of the journey I've been on, and, the family scenario that I have and the relationship I have with him. And I think one of the most beautiful things that I've witnessed in my relationship with him is that the more that I've opened up and shared emotionally and like embraced like being emotional for myself, is that I've also been able to hold space for him to feel safe and comfortable enough to open up. And he has opened up so much, and he is, beautiful at being vulnerable. And we can both feel safe creating a healthy space for each other to be open and vulnerable and emotional together and support each other. And it's so beautiful. And it's something that only deepens the relationship, the love, the respect. And it allows you to know that together you can support each other through anything, which I just think is so important in a love relationship or any relationship. And I think though, that's why it's so important to build self-love and to build, this confidence with yourself, because that then like flows out into the relationships going on around you. The No Sugarcoating podcast is proud to partner with Herbaland. Herbaland products are sugar-free, gluten-free, vegan, and made with love in Richmond, British Columbia. All of their vitamins and supplements come in gummy form, making them easy and fun to take. Their products are made for everyone to enjoy. Whether you are struggling with capsule fatigue, have trouble swallowing large capsules, or you simply love your vitamins tasting like delicious watermelon, Herbaland is for you. And a fun fact is that Herbaland is also the #1 gummy manufacturer in Canada. Be sure to check out more information and try your gummies at www.herbaland.ca. And so I really want to talk about ways vulnerability supports your health journey. So opening up and sharing your struggles can actually help to lift a huge weight off your shoulders. I don't know how many times I've talked to, potential clients or women on the complimentary consultation, and they just say, I just feel so much better for getting that off my chest, or that's a huge weight lifted off my shoulders to hear that I'm not going to have to count calories or weigh in every day or focus on X, Y, and Z. You know that there is opportunity, possibility, and ways to change whatever it is that you are struggling with if you're open to that. And you can connect with others that understand what you're going through, and you can get the support that you need regardless of what it is that you're going through. I think it's really important to open up and be vulnerable to support your emotional health on your health journey, because so many of the reasons that people diet or binge or emotionally eat are emotional. And instead of eating to shove the emotions down and distract, it's so important to work through these emotions, to feel your emotions, to release negative emotions and past scenarios that don't serve you anymore, to help you heal. so that you can move forward and you can fill the void with love, with worthiness, happiness, compassion, and all of the beautiful things that life has to offer. I feel like the more vulnerable you are with yourself and your journey, the safer you build yourself to feel and the more confident you feel in your body. And that supports feeling at home in your body. And the more at home you feel in your body, the more you accept your body and you build self-love. And you have this like utmost gratitude and you're just so grateful every day for the body you have and everything she does for you. And I just think that there is so much value in that, because the safer you feel, as I always say, then the easier it is for your body to let go of protection. Because if you really feel safe in your body, you don't need to hide behind layers of protection. So for weight loss and healthy release of weight, I think being vulnerable and working through these emotional pieces is just so huge. And the more you open up and share how you're feeling, the more you let it go. So I really believe that when we hold on to everything inside emotionally and suppress it, we get more tired, we get more anxious, we get a heavy feeling. You know, some people get pain, their symptoms get worse, people get depressed, their digestion, they get more sensitive and bloated. But I really believe that anything suppressed, in my opinion, will contribute to worse physical symptoms in the body. And Louise L. Hay, who's a world-renowned leader on this, also really did a lot of work with that. Because why is it after crying or like being angry and punching a pillow, that you often feel better? You feel a release, you feel emotionally lighter because you've had something come up, you felt it, you've emotionally released it and processed it and let it go. And again, I've been on client calls, like countless client calls, where things get emotional and the client, cries or gets upset about something that they're working through and they feel so much better afterward. It's all about sharing something that you need to share because it's important for you. And that's what vulnerability is all about. And to not worry how it's going to be taken or seen, to not worry that it will get put down or shut down or that you'll get abandoned or rejected. Because when we sit in our vulnerability and our truth, I believe it really does help us heal and helps us build confidence. And it helps us to release things to be able to move forward. For me, I really used to fear being vulnerable because I had a massive fear of being abandoned. And that's because I've had many different experiences in the past, like when I was younger, where I was abandoned. I never was like left on the street or like to fend for myself, but like emotionally abandoned and abandoned by certain friends for no reason in just different situations. And I've done a lot of work to let go of that because that fear really used to hold me back from being vulnerable for fear of being abandoned or judged for being emotional. And now as I share lovingly how I feel, whenever I do that, it feels so great because I'm so supported in my vulnerability. And so again, it took time to get there, but it took working through the fear of being abandoned if I was vulnerable to know that the vulnerability actually helped to strengthen the relationship that I had with myself and others. Some women that I talk with, they share with me, it's the first time that they're sharing about their particular health struggles, emotional eating, binging, weight insecurities, hormone and digestive struggles. And it's a big deal to open up and share about something like this. And I'm so grateful that, the women that are reaching out to me feel safe and comfortable opening up. Because it is up to you to choose if that is something that you want to do. And I think it's so important that you feel safe and comfortable opening up and that you don't feel judged at all. And I've also had a lot of women, unfortunately, who have come to me and they've shared that they have, gone to various healthcare practitioners and they felt so judged about their weight. They felt so judged about whatever it is that they're struggling with. And it's made them want to close up and it just makes them feel horrible. And it fuels the emotional eating. It fuels the sabotage with food because that person judged them or said something about their weight or made a comment. And so if you are one of those people that has had a negative experience, I encourage you to give it another chance with someone that you feel safe with because you can get the support that you do need to claim optimal health and body freedom. And you don't have to let a poor experience dictate you being able to move forward and have that. So I really find that when it comes to vulnerability and your health, where really, people feel really held back is the mindset that you're carrying. So whether you're a people pleaser, have a perfectionist mindset, you feel like you have to do everything on your own and you can't ask for help, you can't say no to anybody, but you're saying no to yourself. So I want to share an example of a scenario so that you can see if this resonates. So if you are a people pleaser and you feel like you need to say yes to everyone else, but you're realizing that it's having a really negative impact on your health, your energy, your digestion, your overbooked schedule continues to fuel emotional eating and weight roller coaster. It's emotional. You don't feel good enough. So, oftentimes a lot of my clients have this people pleasing mentality. And so I am supporting them to learn how to bring more balance into their schedule. And sometimes that means saying no instead of saying yes. Saying yes to their own health and no to other people. And when one starts to say no instead of yes, it can feel so vulnerable and so scary because you're putting yourself out there. You are doing the opposite of what is out of your comfort zone. So it's uncomfortable. It's something that is just foreign. And it's like, well, what if they get upset with me? What if I get rejected, right? Like there's all these what ifs. But it's that vulnerability and standing up for yourself and stepping outside of your comfort zone that's going to help you dedicate more time to take care of yourself. It's just like the person who hesitates or resists asking for help because they think it makes them look weak, but they put themselves out there and they're vulnerable and they finally ask for help, and that helps make life easier, right? Or another scenario is maybe you're, starting to consider dedicating time for yourself and self-care, and that you feel extremely guilty thinking about making yourself a priority. And you're thinking, well, are people going to think I'm lazy? Are people going to think I don't work hard? And there's a fear of being judged. And so there's this vulnerability in putting yourself first and stepping outside of your comfort zone and working through the guilt that may come with getting uncomfortable. And that's also vulnerability, in my opinion. And what happens though is as you start to get vulnerable and you start to work through the discomfort and you start to make yourself a priority and you start saying no lovingly and asking for help and dedicating time to self-care, it's these kinds of changes that will transform your life. It's the vulnerability that's going to help you build your confidence and gain your health back and have the energy you want and a healthy relationship with food. I remember how much I used to dread saying no to people for fear of being judged or letting them down, when I really so badly wanted to focus on dedicating more time for myself because my health was depending on it. And as I put myself out there and was vulnerable and started to learn how to say no, and now I'm to the point where it's so easy to say no. I only say yes to things that feel in alignment for me. And it's like, it's my comfort zone now, and it would feel really uncomfortable to say yes to things all the time and say no to myself. But it took time to shift that, and it took me being vulnerable and open to do so. So where I really see the opportunity to shift and use vulnerability to help with your health is like to ask your help, or to ask for help rather, or say that you are, maybe wanting to consider embarking on this health journey and you're wanting to invest in your health. Maybe you have to talk to your husband about it, or you have to ask for financial help from someone else. And that feels really vulnerable for you, but you know how important it is. And so asking is just so key. Like I remember the first time I made a big investment in my business, and I was just like, how am I even going to do this? And I asked for some help, and it changed my life, and it was very vulnerable, but it changed my life. And I don't regret one bit asking for that help. So if you are a people pleaser, if you're an overachiever, if you have that perfectionist all or nothing mindset, if you feel like you have to figure it all out on your own, if there's conversations you're wanting to have, maybe there's a loving relationship you want to open up to, but you're just so scared of being hurt, right? Maybe you are so scared of failing again with your health, and that you've invested in so many things and you failed at so many things that you're just like, I don't want to fail again. But it does take getting vulnerable and opening up to whatever the path in front of you has planned and whatever is laid out in front of you. Like, I remember how vulnerable I felt when I got into the relationship I've been in now, and it's absolutely amazing. And I've been with this person now for going to be as close to 4 years, which it's like time flies. But I remember when we met 8.5 years ago for the first time, and I was head over heels for him and just like fell in love with him immediately. And then he dumped me because he wasn't ready and he didn't feel good enough. And The thing is I wasn't ready either, truly, because I didn't feel good enough at the time. I was still struggling with my food addiction. But, right, so we kind of came back together a few times in that 4-year period. And I, at the time, was like, I'm madly in love with you. Like, I want to be with you. And if you don't want to be with me, then like, I don't think I can talk to you because I need to fall out of love with you so I can like be open to someone else. And it was so hard to be that vulnerable and share that, but to like honor what I needed. And what is so beautiful about the scenario is 4 years ago, right around this time, I got a message from this person and we started a conversation. And I thought, do I want to do this? Do I want to put myself out there and be vulnerable? I was scared because I didn't want to get hurt again. But I also thought, if something feels different, and what if it's different this time? Whilst it sucks getting hurt, what would suck way more is not being open to the possibility of the beautiful love that could potentially blossom if I choose to be open. And I did. And I'm so grateful and thankful that I chose to be open and vulnerable and take that risk, because I've never been in a more beautiful relationship. And I really believe that once I learned how to love myself, this person came back into my life and he learned how to love himself, and we came together and, we did our work, and we work and support each other now in our growth, and we lovingly challenge each other. And it's absolutely amazing. But it took me being open to taking that risk instead of shutting down and letting fear take over and letting the fear of hurt take over and get in the way of something so beautiful, right? It's like me taking the risk to share my story on my website when I first started my business. Like, that was scary, but I'm like, I got to do it because I'm going to be helping people with this and I want people to know that they're not alone. But at first it was very scary. Vulnerability, though, is profound and it is life-changing in a positive way. And you never know what you could attract or create more of in your life when it comes to love, loving relationships, self-love, your optimal health, like working through fears, working through challenging emotions or situations, having support, getting help from other people, building your confidence. Like, vulnerability is life-changing. And so, I just think it's so important to understand that we can let fear hold us back so easily, and we can really play a small game of life and limit our lives because of fear, and then get to the end of life and go, I regret having so much fear. I wish I would have taken those risks and been more courageous and opened up to all of these, things that I was presented with. So my question for you, and this could be a great journaling exercise, so pull out a piece of paper, is, where is it that you are resisting or procrastinating or fearing being vulnerable with your needs, with your health, with your life, with love, with business success, whatever it is? And are you ready to take some small action steps to being vulnerable? Because it is life-changing. Life-changing. And I will never forget. And I want to share this with you because I just think it's so valuable. And I know I don't share about my relationship a lot, but I just think that these are like moving moments. I remember when my boyfriend first asked me to be his girlfriend, and he said, I'm so sorry for hurting you and making you feel the way that I did before. And he said, I promise you, I will never do that to you ever again. I'm only here to love you and to take care of you and support you. And when he said that, it was just like, and I didn't ask him to say it, like he just came out and said it. And that was him being so vulnerable because he had been feeling this and he had been wanting to share that with me. Same with the first time when he told me he loved me, like he went out and he was so vulnerable, and we create this space back and forth with each other. But it's just like, those are the moments. That's why it's so rewarding to be vulnerable, because it's like those precious moments are some of the moments that I will remember for the rest of my life and that I will like treasure in my heart. Same with when I, first looked in the mirror and literally like felt this feeling of self-love and acceptance. Like that is a vulnerable moment that I will treasure and keep in my heart for forever. So vulnerability builds, I think, some of the most life-changing, nurturing, loving memories for us to keep in our hearts. And so I hope that helps you to understand how vulnerability can play such a big role with your health journey, your self-love journey, your relationship with others, your business, whatever it is. I just think it's so important to be vulnerable and open with those that you care about and those that you love. And because you never know how it's going to impact your relationship with them and with yourself. And if you're being open and vulnerable with someone and they keep putting you down or they're not supporting you, well, then maybe that's a sign that there's an opportunity to align with other people that are more open to supporting you through your vulnerability and those gifts that you are sharing, because I think vulnerability is such a gift. And that brings me to my last point of, breaking free of fears of being vulnerable. So I want to just talk about some things that you can start to try if you're open to help you start to break through being vulnerable. I think the first thing is to just understand if you're scared and to not judge the fear, but to just know fear is only going to hold you back. Fear freezes people, and we feel fear all the time. Fear can also be a comfort zone and feel safe, even though fear is not fun to feel. So I think that's why it's so important to understand that the fear is invisible. Like there's no actual brick wall in front of you that's blocking you from moving forward and being vulnerable. And it's so powerful because, when I have these conversations with clients and encourage them to be vulnerable with their friends, their family members, their partners, their kids, whomever it is, and they go and do it, it's always a positive situation and it's rewarding and there are positive emotions that fly, there's tears, but it's they come back and they go, I'm so glad I did that. I wish I would have done it sooner. It's profound, the impact that can have. So I would encourage you, if there's something that you've wanted to say to someone you really care about or you love, say it, because you never know how it could change everything. I think it's important to understand that once you do it once, and you start to get into a regular habit of being vulnerable. You don't have to be vulnerable every moment of every day, but it's getting into the practice, just like asking for help or saying no. It starts to bit by bit get a bit easier and you build some confidence. You're okay, I made it through that. I can do this. Actually, there's a lot of payoff by being vulnerable. It really helped this scenario, right? Or it really helped me work through this emotion. It really made me feel good to be vulnerable and express myself. Step by step, bit by bit, you just it's dipping your toe into the water and then dipping all your toes and then dipping half your foot. You can go with a vulnerability growth at your pace. And as you build self-love and you build your inner self-worth, you feel safer being vulnerable and opening up to others, because even though there is risk in love or being hurt or whatever it is that you're putting at risk to have a full-on experience, it's you would rather be able to have that experience and risk getting hurt than letting fear hold you back. I'm so grateful that I didn't let the fear hold me back in my relationship, because it has been so beautiful. And that's where I think it's so important to trust your gut. And if something feels different and it feels good this time, open up to it. No matter what the scenario is. I think it's important to do self-care regularly and to take downtime to relax and connect with yourself to help you work through your negative emotions and your fears so that you're more grounded, because I often find if we're in this fearful, really emotional, negative emotional state, we may not want to be vulnerable. So if you use your self-care to get grounded and relaxed, that, can really help you feel more confident and more courageous or motivated to move forward with being vulnerable. Again, if you're frazzled and overwhelmed, you're probably far less likely to want to step outside of your comfort zone whilst you're feeling so unbearably uncomfortable, with those negative emotions. I think it's important to talk to someone about your vulnerabilities and, get support that's going to help you open up to being vulnerable. If it resonates for you to reach out to me and you're struggling with, these different scenarios and you're struggling with your body image and your weight and your relationship with food, and you have low energy and digestive issues, or you suspect your hormones are out of balance and you're ready to invest in your health, book the 30-minute complimentary consultation. I definitely want to have a beautiful, conversation with you. And I open up and have such a safe space here for any one of you who wants to step forth and receive that support. I think it's important to open up to others that you feel safe and comfortable with, and be vulnerable. So start with your closest loved ones, friends, family members that you feel safe opening up to, and just practice sharing and being vulnerable. And then the people that it feels a little bit more scary or uncomfortable, work toward then being vulnerable with them. Again, you don't have to just rip off the tape. You can take this at your pace. And I think it's important to start with smaller, vulnerabilities and work toward the really big, scary ones. If you're like, nope, gonna go do a big, scary one, well, great. But again, sometimes we just need to like slowly build the muscle. So again, take your time and start with small things. So, a small vulnerability may just be like, it could be asking for help, or that could be a really big one, or it could be like saying I love you to somebody, or it could be giving someone a compliment or giving yourself a compliment, right? So it's just for you to take it at your pace and to not like push or force yourself to do more than feels good for you. And you don't have to fully expose yourself in vulnerability all the time. If you want to, great, but you don't have to. Again, this is not like all of a sudden you have to go from never being vulnerable to vulnerable all the time, but know that your vulnerability can be an inspiration. It can move other people, emotionally, and it can encourage them to know that it's safe for them to open up and be vulnerable as well. And you never know how that may help them on their own, emotional well-being journey. I really believe that our emotions and our emotional state largely is going to dictate our physical state of health. And that's why I think vulnerability is just so important, because it is going to have a huge impact on how you take care of yourself, the way, the relationship you have with food, with your body. And so that's really why I wanted to talk about vulnerability today. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on vulnerability. So at any point, you can reach out, info@amberapproved.ca, share what you thought of the episode. If you have questions, you can send those as well. So I want to just share a little bit in the show notes before I let you guys go for the day. So you can find the show notes at amberapproved.ca/podcast/199. A friendly reminder to subscribe to the podcast on all podcast apps. You can also click the link in the show notes and listen to all episodes at amberapproved.ca/podcast-archive. That's ARCHIVE. Make sure you check out the new website, the emotional eating quiz. There's new videos. There's more information that you can learn about body freedom and what that is. So again, amberapproved.ca, you can check that out. Really excited to share that I have some really exciting guests that are going to be coming on the podcast this fall. So definitely, you'll have to stay tuned. My first new guest is coming up in a couple of weeks, episode 201. So stay tuned for that. And definitely stay tuned for episode 200 next week, as I have an exciting giveaway announcement, since we are going to be celebrating episode 200, and it is going to be a worldwide announcement, so you won't want to miss that. Last but not least, I have opened the enrollment for my fall Jump Into Your Body Freedom group program. This is an online program that is done via video conferencing on Zoom. So essentially what happens is every week for a period of 8 weeks, we hop on a call. It is all women who are, kind of dealing with similar things, and it's a great community support. So we go through the different themes like self-care, emotional eating triggers, cravings, digestion, sleep, energy levels, body image. And between the sessions, there's tools and there's recommendations made. There's a private Facebook group, and it's a really great way to start transforming your health in a group setting. So if you are wanting to learn more information, if you're, considering wanting to be a part of this group program, there's still a couple of spots left at the 50% off. So you can email me at info@amberapproved.ca with the subject line Fall Group Program to book a 30-minute body freedom call with me. I'll send you more information on the program, the pricing. We can see if it's a good fit for you, and I will be happy to answer all of your questions. So again, feel free to reach out and email me at info@amberapproved.ca. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful week. Go out and be vulnerable with somebody or yourself, because I swear it will move you, and the world needs more vulnerability. So enjoy your day, have a beautiful week, and I will look forward to sharing episode 200 with you next Sunday. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, review, and rate this podcast and share it with your friends. You can find me at amberapproved.ca and follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Amber Romaniuk. Join me next Sunday for another brand new episode and another step toward body freedom.